Captain Daeho Park stood on the observation deck of the ESS Resilience, watching the alien ships outside. These vessels were far more advanced than anything humans had built. Their smooth hulls seemed to drink in the light of nearby stars. They moved without visible engines, silent and graceful. Next to him, Lieutenant Hannah Kim frowned at her data tablet. "They're laughing at us again, Captain. They're sharing pictures of our ships." Daeho's jaw tightened. The human fleet looked old and clumsy next to the alien armada. Earth had sent its best, but best meant converted nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers with makeshift faster-than-light drives, and destroyers with missile systems that hadn't changed much in 50 years. These were Earth's pride, vessels that had protected humanity for generations. To the Galactic Confederation, they were relics. "Let them laugh," he said quietly. "They've forgotten something important." Hannah raised an eyebrow. "Sir?" "They've forgotten what it means to fight for survival." The observation deck doors slid open with a hiss. Ambassador Ji-won Lee walked in, her back straight, her uniform perfect despite the strain showing in her eyes. She had spent the last 3 days in meetings with alien diplomats who barely hid their contempt. "The Security Council wants our weapons data." "Again," she said, handing Daeho a data crystal. "I think they want to make sure we're not hiding anything." Daeho almost smiled. "Did you tell them?" "Yes. I listed everything. Railguns. Nuclear missiles. Kinetic penetrators. And..." Ji-won's lips thinned. The Talon delegate made a sound. The translator called it laughter. Daeho turned back to the viewport. The Talon's blue-skinned beings with 4 arms had been the most openly dismissive. Their ships used weapons that bent space itself. Of course they would laugh at metal projectiles and atomic warheads. "They think we're primitive," Hannah said. "We are," Ji-won replied. "By their standards." A soft chime rang through the ship, and the main screen activated. The face of Talon High Commander Rill appeared. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture the humans had learned meant mild amusement. "Captain Park," the alien said, its translator giving it a flat, artificial voice. "Your vessel is invited to observe our military exercises tomorrow. Perhaps you will learn something useful to take back to your world." Daeho kept his face neutral. "We would be honored, High Commander." After the screen went dark, Ji-won sighed. "They're showing off." "Let them," Daeho said. Later that evening, Daeho met with his senior officers in the ship's conference room. Chief Engineer Bae looked tired after days of keeping the retrofitted submarine systems running in space. Security Chief Min wore a permanent scowl. He'd had 3 confrontations with alien security teams who treated humans like children. "They want us to watch their war games tomorrow," Daeho explained. "They want to impress us." "Or scare us," Min muttered. "Both, probably," said Bae. "Their technology is amazing. I've been studying the scans. Their ships don't even use conventional engines. It's like they bend space around them." Hannah pulled up images on the main screen. "Their weapons are all energy-based. Plasma cannons, directed gravity, quantum disruptors. Nothing physical." Daeho nodded slowly. "Interesting." "Interesting?" Min asked. "It's terrifying. One of their smallest ships could destroy our entire fleet." "Maybe," Daeho said. "But have you noticed something about all these advanced species? They've been at peace for centuries. Their weapons are all designed to fight each other, other advanced species with similar technology." The room went quiet as his officers thought about this. "Humans have been fighting humans for our entire history," Daeho continued. "We've developed countermeasures for every weapon we've invented. When one defense gets too good, we find a new way to attack." Ji-won, who had been silent, suddenly understood. "They've specialized. All their defenses are designed to stop energy weapons." "Exactly," Daeho said. "They think kinetic weapons are primitive because they haven't needed to defend against them for 1,000 years." Hannah looked up from her tablet. "Captain, we're receiving a general alert. All Confederation ships are being called to an emergency meeting. What's happening? G1 asked. Unknown ships have entered Confederation space, Hannah said, reading quickly. They've attacked the outer colonies. Daiho stood. It seems the Confederation may soon remember why even primitive weapons have their uses. Red lights flashed through the diplomatic station. Alarms rang in every corridor. Captain Daiho Park hurried to the emergency meeting chamber, Lieutenant Hannah Kim at his side. What do we know? He asked. Not much, Hannah said. Something attacked the outer colonies. The Confederation fleet is taking heavy losses. They entered the large circular room where representatives from 50 alien species gathered around a massive hologram table. The images showed destruction. Space stations torn apart. Ships broken in half. The faces of the alien delegates showed fear and emotion Daiho had not seen from them before. Admiral Korra, the tall, gray-skinned military leader of the Confederation, stood at the center. Her usually perfect posture now seemed stiff with tension. The unknown enemy has destroyed our outpost at Sector 7, she announced. Her voice was steady, but her four-fingered hands gripped the edge of the table tightly. They've disabled 4 battlecruisers already. Now they move toward our central systems. The hologram shifted to show the enemy ships. They were dark, angular vessels that seemed to swallow light. Their movements were precise and coordinated, like a swarm of insects. Daiho watched as the alien representatives began to talk over each other. The proud Talons looked shaken. The usually calm Vorith delegates were arguing loudly. Even the machine intelligences of the Kaith Collective seemed disturbed, their lights blinking rapidly. Our sensors cannot track them properly, said a Vorith scientist. They absorb our scans. The Talon commander's skin had turned a pale blue. Our phase cannons have no effect. Their shields adapt to our energy signatures within seconds. On the hologram, they all watched as a sleek Confederation flagship, a vessel that had impressed even Daiho with its power, fired brilliant beams of energy at an enemy ship. The dark vessel seemed to absorb the attack. Then it fired back. The Confederation ship split apart. How can this be? Asked one delegate. Our technology is superior to anything in the known galaxy. Superior to anything you know, Hannah whispered to Daiho. Ambassador Ji-won Lee, who had been quiet until now, slowly stood. The room fell silent as the human representative cleared her throat. Perhaps Earth's vessels could assist, she suggested. Admiral Korra turned to look at Ji-won. Her expression showed clear disdain despite the crisis. Your antiques, she asked. They would be destroyed immediately. Several delegates laughed nervously, glad for a moment of lightness in the grim meeting. Perhaps, G1 replied calmly. But our antiques operate on different principles than your advanced weapons. Daiho stepped forward. Admiral, your ships use energy weapons, plasma beams, quantum disruptors, gravity lances. These enemies seem able to counter all of them. And you think your primitive projectile weapons would do better? Asked the Talon commander. I think they would do differently, Daiho said. These enemies have adapted to your technology. They might not be prepared for ours. Admiral Korra frowned. Explain. Your ships fire energy. Our ships fire physical objects, metal, explosives. You create shields that stop energy. These enemies seem to do the same. But stopping a tungsten rod moving at high speed requires a completely different kind of defense. The hologram updated. 3 more Confederation ships had been destroyed. The enemy was moving closer to the populated worlds. We don't have time for experiments, Admiral Korra said. You don't have time not to try everything, G1 countered. Chief Engineer Bay had entered the room and now handed Daiho a data tablet. Captain, I've analyzed the enemy ships based on the Confederation's sensor data. Their hulls are designed to reflect or absorb energy. But they're thin optimized for lightness and speed. Daiho nodded. Just as I thought. Admiral, our railguns fire solid metal at 30 kilometers per second. I don't think these enemies are ready for that. The delegates began to talk among themselves. Some laughed at the human suggestion. Others looked desperate enough to try anything. A new alarm sounded. The hologram showed more enemy ships entering the system. "They'll be here in 6 hours," someone said. Admiral Cora looked at the human delegation for a long moment. Then she turned to her staff. "Allow the Earthships to join our defensive line," she ordered. "Put them on the outer edge. They can fire first." As they left the meeting, Hannah looked at Daeho. "Outer edge means we'll be the first targets." "Yes," Daeho said. "But it also means we'll get the first shot." He activated his communicator. "All Earthships, prepare for combat. Load all railguns with tungsten penetrators. Arm nuclear missiles." They laughed at our ancient ships. "Let's show them why we've kept them." The war room of the ESS Resilience hummed with activity. Once the command center of a nuclear submarine, it now served as the heart of humanity's flagship in space. The walls were lined with screens showing enemy positions, weapons status, and communication feeds from other Earthships. Captain Daeho Park stood before the main tactical table where the commanders of Earth's small fleet had gathered. Their faces were grim but determined. "For hours until the enemy arrives," Daeho said. "The Confederation has given us the outer defensive position." "You mean they're using us as shields," said Commander Sunmi Ryu. She had once commanded a submarine in the Korean Navy before it was converted for space travel. Her weathered face showed no fear, only calculation. "Maybe," Daeho admitted. "But it gives us first strike capability." He touched the table controls, bringing up images of the enemy ships. The dark, angular vessels looked like predators. "The Confederation's energy weapons are being absorbed or reflected," he explained. "Their targeting systems are being jammed. But we still have options they don't." The display changed to show the weapon systems of the Earth fleet: railguns that could fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds, nuclear missiles designed to detonate at close range, and simple but effective armor-piercing rounds. Kinetic weapons. Radio-guided missiles. Nuclear warheads, Daeho continued. "Sometimes the old ways work best." Commander Sunmi nodded. "Like fighting in fog. When advanced targeting fails, you rely on training and instinct." "Precisely," Daeho confirmed. "For centuries, humans fought each other with increasingly sophisticated countermeasures. We never abandoned physical projectiles because they're harder to defend against than energy." Lieutenant Jin Woo-han, the youngest officer present, studied the enemy formations with careful eyes. "They're expecting energy weapons. They won't be prepared for shells and missiles moving at relativistic speeds." "The Confederation has forgotten what we still remember," Daeho said. "War isn't about technology. It's about survival." He turned to Chief Engineer Bay. "What's our weapons status?" "All railguns operational," Bay reported. "We've converted our long-range torpedoes to space use. They're slower than missiles but carry bigger warheads. And we've rigged the old depth charges with nuclear cores." "Good," Daeho said. "We'll need everything." The communication screen lit up. Admiral Cora's face appeared, her expression tight. "Captain Park, my weapons officers inform me your vessels are arming nuclear devices. This violates Confederation protocols." Daeho kept his voice respectful but firm. "Admiral, with respect, Earth is not yet a full member of the Confederation. And these enemies don't seem to care about your protocols." "These weapons are primitive and dangerous," the Admiral said. "Yes," Daeho agreed. "That's precisely why we're using them." After the Admiral's image disappeared, Commander Sunmi shook her head. "They really don't understand, do they?" "They haven't had to fight for survival in centuries," Daeho said. "They've forgotten what war really is." Lieutenant Jinwoo brought up historical images on a side screen: ancient naval battles, modern submarines, aircraft carriers launching jets. "Every time humans developed a new weapon, we developed countermeasures," Jinwoo said. "Radar led to stealth. Guided missiles led to chaff and electronic warfare. We kept the old weapons because sometimes they still worked best. Daiho pointed to the display of the enemy ships. These beings have adapted to fight the Confederation, high-energy weapons, advanced shields. But I bet they've never faced simple kinetic impacts or nuclear detonations in space. Their hulls are thin, Chief Engineer Bay added. Designed to reflect energy, not stop solid objects. Security Chief Min entered the war room with a group of crew members who had just finished loading the weapons systems. All stations report ready, Min said. The crew wants to know the plan. Daiho looked around at his officers. These men and women had trained for underwater combat on Earth. Now they would fight in the emptiness of space, but the principles remained the same. We will use everything we have, he said. Railguns to punch through their hulls. Nuclear torpedoes to disrupt their formations. Radio-guided weapons that can't be jammed by their technology. And if that fails, someone asked. Then we ram them, Commander Sunmi said calmly. The Resilience was built to withstand deep ocean pressures. Her hull is thick. We can survive an impact they cannot. The room fell silent. Then Security Chief Min nodded slowly. My grandfather fought in the last Pacific War. He said sometimes you must be willing to die to protect what matters. The Confederation thinks we're primitive because our ships are old, Daiho said. But there is wisdom in what we've kept. We know that war never really changes. It's not about who has the fancier weapon. It's about who survives. The tactical display updated. The enemy ships had increased speed. They would arrive sooner than expected. Take your stations, Daiho ordered. Prepare all weapons. Let's show the galaxy what humanity's ancient ships can do. The human fleet formed a line between the important Confederation worlds and the coming enemy ships. The ESS Resilience floated at the center. Once it had moved beneath Earth's oceans as a submarine. Now it sailed through space, covered with railguns and missile launchers. Captain Daiho Park stood on the bridge, watching the main screen. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their dark shapes cutting through space like sharks. Behind the human ships, the Confederation fleet waited, their beautiful vessels glowing with energy weapons ready to fire. Enemy fleet entering weapons range, Lieutenant Hannah Kim reported. Her voice was steady despite the tension on the bridge. Daiho tightened his grip on the back of his chair. These enemy ships had destroyed the Confederation's advanced vessels easily. Now they approached the human fleet as if it were not worth noticing. They're scanning us, Lieutenant Jin Wuhan announced from the sensor station. Probably wondering why we haven't powered up energy weapons. The human ships had been quiet, running with minimal power. Unlike the Confederation vessels, they gave off little energy to detect. Let them wonder, Daiho said. He looked at Commander Sunmi Ryu at the weapons station. Fire when ready. Sunmi's fingers moved across her controls. Target locked. Firing main railgun. The entire ship shuddered. A massive electromagnetic pulse shot a depleted uranium round down the length of the railgun. The projectile left the ship at 30 kilometers per second. On the screen, they watched it cross the empty space in moments. It struck the lead enemy ship before its shields could adapt. The round punched straight through the alien vessel's hull. Direct hit. Hannah called out, surprise in her voice. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the enemy ship's sleek form cracked open, air and debris spilling into space. All ships, fire at will, Daiho ordered through the fleet communications. Across the human fleet, converted Earth vessels unleashed their weapons. The old aircraft carrier ESS Indomitable launched dozens of small, fast missiles. The destroyer ESS Steadfast fired its railguns in rapid sequence. The former missile submarine ESS Silent Hunter released nuclear torpedoes that moved slowly but carried enormous destructive power. The enemy ships tried to respond. Their shields, designed to stop energy beams, did nothing against solid metal moving at high speed. The railgun rounds punched through hulls. Missiles exploded against their outer armor. Nuclear detonations in space sent waves of radiation and superheated particles washing over their formations. They're breaking formation, Jinwoo reported. The perfect lines of enemy ships began to scatter. Their coordination is failing. On the communication screen, Admiral Korra's face appeared. For once, the proud alien looked shocked. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "How are your weapons penetrating their defenses?" "Simple physics, Admiral," Daeho replied. "Their shields stop energy. Our weapons are physical." On the tactical display, the enemy ships tried to regroup. Several turned toward the Resilience, recognizing it as a threat. "3 ships approaching, attack pattern," Hannah warned. "Load the heavy penetrators," Daeho ordered. Sunmi worked her controls. Loading tungsten carbide rounds. The railguns fired again. These rounds were heavier, designed to break through the thickest armor. 2 enemy ships were hit directly. One broke apart immediately. The other spun away, leaking atmosphere. "They're firing back," Jinwoo warned. The enemy weapons were finally unleashed against the human ships. Strange purple beams that seemed to bend space itself reached out for the Resilience. But Chief Engineer Bay had prepared for this. "Reflective armor holding," he reported. "They're trying to use the same energy weapons that worked against the Confederation. And we're not built the same way," Daeho said with grim satisfaction. The human ships had been covered with simple reflective material, aluminum and gold foil in some cases. Nothing fancy, but effective against certain types of energy weapons. "Nuclear torpedo detonation in Sector 4, Hannah announced. On the screen, they watched as one of the nuclear warheads exploded near a group of enemy ships. The blast itself did little in the vacuum of space, but the wave of radiation and superheated particles washed over the enemy vessels. Their sleek hulls, designed to be lightweight and energy reflective, offered little protection. "Their communications are disrupted," Jinwoo said. "The EMP from the nuclear blast has affected their systems. More human weapons found their marks. Railgun rounds punched through enemy hulls. Missiles detonated against their outer surfaces. Simple kinetic impactors, essentially giant metal arrows, pierced their command centers. The Confederation fleet is moving up," Hannah reported. "They're firing on the disabled enemy ships." On the communications channel, they could hear the surprise in the alien commanders' voices as they realized what was happening. The primitive human weapons were working where their advanced technology had failed. 50% of enemy fleet disabled or destroyed, Jinwoo announced. Daeho watched as the remaining enemy ships began to retreat, their perfect formation now broken and scattered. "They're running," Sunmi said, a note of satisfaction in her voice. In the observation room of the Confederation command ship, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity's primitive weapons tore through the invaders' hulls. What they had mocked just days before had just saved their worlds. 2 weeks after the battle, the Great Hall of the Galactic Confederation shone with light. Captain Daeho Park stood straight in his formal uniform as he faced the council. The same alien representatives who had laughed at human ships now sat in respectful silence. The room was different from when he had first entered it a month ago. Then, the aliens had looked down at the humans with amusement. Now their eyes showed something new: respect. Admiral Korra rose from her seat. Her tall, gray form seemed less stiff than before. When she spoke, her voice carried through the chamber without the hint of superiority it once held. "We thank humanity for their intervention," she stated formally. "Without your unconventional approach, we might have lost several core worlds." Ambassador Ji-won Lee stood beside Daeho. She gave a small bow to the council. "Earth has always maintained diverse military strategies," she said. "What some might call outdated, we call time-tested." The blue-skinned Talon representative leaned forward. This was the same alien who had laughed when told about Earth's weapons. Now his 4 eyes were fixed on the humans with interest. "We would request that humanity share its military doctrines with the Confederation Defense Forces," the Talon said. "It seems we have become overspecialized." Captain Daeho looked around the chamber. He saw beings from 50 different worlds. Some had scales instead of skin. Others had 4 arms or 3 eyes. But today, they all watched him with the same expression. Humanity would be honored to contribute, Deho said. We've learned that true advancement isn't abandoning the old for the new, it's integrating both. After the meeting, Commander Sunmi Ryu joined Deho in the observation lounge. Through the large windows, they could see the Confederation fleet. The sleek alien ships now floated side by side with Earth's converted vessels. They're not laughing anymore, Sunmi said, sipping from a cup of tea. No, Deho agreed. But neither are we. We all have something to learn from each other. He remembered how he had once watched these alien ships with envy. Their technology had seemed magical. But in the battle, those same ships had fallen while Earth's primitive vessels fought on. A door opened, and Admiral Cora entered the lounge. Without her formal robes, she looked smaller, though still a head taller than any human. She approached the two Earth officers and gave a small nod. Captain, Commander, she said, her translator giving her voice a metallic quality. I have a proposal. Deho turned to face her. Yes, Admiral? The Confederation would like to commission joint military exercises, she said. Her posture was formal but lacked the condescension Deho had grown used to. Your ancient wisdom combined with our advanced technology could create something formidable. Deho thought about the battle. How Earth's simple railguns had torn through enemy ships that Confederation weapons couldn't touch. But he also thought about how much faster and more agile the alien ships were. He extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. Admiral Cora looked at it for a moment, then slowly reached out her four-fingered hand and took his. We would be pleased to join such exercises, Deho said. Good, Admiral Cora replied. The enemy ships we faced may return. When they do, they will find us better prepared. Lieutenant Hannah Kim entered the lounge with a data tablet. Captain, the Confederation engineers want to examine our railgun designs. And the Vorith scientists are interested in our nuclear propulsion systems. Tell them they're welcome to study our technology, Deho said. And ask if our engineers can learn about their faster-than-light drives. Outside the window, a small Confederation shuttle docked with the ESS Resilience. Alien engineers in environmental suits floated across to examine the human vessel. Will you stay? Admiral Cora asked. As our allies? Deho looked at Sunmi, who nodded slightly. We will, he said. Earth has much to offer the Confederation. And much to learn. Indeed, the Admiral agreed. We thought we had reached the peak of military technology. We were wrong. As the sun of this alien system set, its light glinted off the hulls of the combined fleet. The Confederation's beautiful, sleek vessels shone like jewels. Beside them, Earth's converted submarines and carriers looked sturdy and strong. Different, but now equally respected. In the space between stars, both would be needed. The old and the new. The simple and the advanced. Together they would face whatever came next. The enemy had been driven back, but not destroyed. They would return. And when they did, they would find humanity and the Confederation standing together, ready with weapons both ancient and new. The laughter had stopped. The learning had begun.